Hello. Hello, everyone. I'll be talking about widgets that stretch and fold. And basically, what I mean is that I want to be talking about responsive design in Flutter and how we can build widgets that can fit in web layouts and even phone layouts. So, first, I'll be talking about the how we can break down the thought process when we are building an application. When we are building an application, what are the things that we need to think about when, if we want to make sure that they are suitable for a web platform and a phone platform. So, first thing is that will your app be responsive in different phone sizes? So if you're developing for a 9-inch phone, you might try it on a 5-inch phone and it will look terribly ugly because you might have some fixed width or fixed height or certain fixed content like that, which is not very responsive. So first, make sure that your app is responsive in different phone sizes. Scrollable versus fixed content. So when we are building some application, there are some content that you definitely want it to be scrollable if it exceeds the height or width limit. And there are some content that needs to fit in either one page or in the width or the entire height has to fit in somehow. So you need to decide which of your content when you have a bigger or larger phone or a smaller devices or in your web layout, which of the content needs to stretch or which of the content needs to fold. So another thing that you need to take care of is that there needs to be different arrangement of content when there is a larger screen size. So if you have some content that cannot fit on a phone device, when you're on a web layout, you probably can fit that content on the larger screen size by dividing the screen size into two halves or something. So you need to decide which of the content can be fit into a different layout in web and which can stay as it is in your layout design. So we'll be taking an example of the website that you probably have seen is the WTM India IWD website. So I'll just show that here. So this is the website that you see, and it's currently pretty responsive. So you, in the comments, you can actually mention what are the things that you see are changing while I am changing the device size. So right now, this is the web layout. Now, if you are reducing it, please note how the content is changing. And please put it on the comment section. What are the things exactly is changing here? See, here are the track cards which are changing on the basis of the layout. And before we had a box with no indicator, blue indicator on the side, and now we have. So there's a different design for boxes here. If you see, there's a different arrangement for your YouTube section and the text. So these are the things that we'll be trying to achieve with a Flutter application. So I actually have created a CodeLab version of the entire Flutter version of the entire application and put it on CodeLab. So you can see like not the entire thing. I was too lazy, but yeah. If you can see, this is now responsive here. This is a Flutter application. Now let's see when we are actually going to write a Flutter app, we probably write for a phone device first. So something like this. It's an iPad, but whatever. This is the first thing that we actually have done for a phone device. This is a Flutter application. It works like this, which is perfect. or is it? So let's see what we have in this application currently. So you have an iPad Air 2, which has a width of 768. So we have a list view, which is a info section, which is all the text that you have. Then the YouTube section and the tracks list section. So this is only the three sections that I have developed till now, since I was very lazy to do the entire application. But I think that will give you enough idea about how we can go responsive for this website. So now the next thing that we can talk about, the first info section is basically just a column of text, which is perfectly fine. We do not have much problem there. But the YouTube section is a container with a 480 to 640 480 by 640 dimension, because that's the kind of dimension that a YouTube video kind of has. So you must have a dimension like that if you want to show the YouTube video in a full screen format. So we just have a YouTube section that shows up there, and it's just a gray box till now. There's no video gonna play right now. And then you have a track list section, which is simply a track card widget that is going to be repopulated 4 times in your list view. That's all currently. There's no issue yet, but okay, sorry. Another thing is that the drawer layout. So when you actually open the drawer on the side, you will have all the menu options. Now let's see what is the problems with the current code. So can we also have this on the comments and tell us what are the problems that we have currently? This is a non-responsive design. What do you think is a problem with this design on an iPad? So you have the drawer here, you have the text here, and you have a YouTube video and a list of tracks. Now, when I go to a different phone size, do you see the problem? Can you mention that in the comment box in YouTube? What are the problems that I am facing currently? So we have text, we have a YouTube video, and some text and some track list, which is fine. We go even smaller, and there's definitely some problem there. And for even a bigger screen, there's just too much space that we could have reused for better content. Yes, text align is fine. What? Uh, okay, that's the UI thing. But what about the layout? No red button in phone view. But what about the layouts that is wrong here? Like, do you see that the content could have been shifted here? The list view is taking up so much of sizes. Like it's taking so much of space here. You could have like maybe like had the track cards in a smaller space like we have in the actual design. And of course, the drawer is still like that. Font, yes. So yes, we have got some of the, like, people are recognizing what is problem. That's the first step, that we need to recognize what is the problem with your application in terms of responsiveness. So now that you are able to recognize that, let's go ahead and try to fix some of them. So the first problem that I felt was the YouTube video in iPhone XR phone, where the width is itself 414, and you're giving it a container of uh, 480 by 640, is it's a little silly, because there will be no 480 dimension there. It is the width is itself is 414. There will be no 480. So this does not look like a 480 by 640 dimension. The YouTube video will be definitely, it looks a very longer widget. So there is some problem there that we should be fixing first. There is a widget called aspect ratio, which attempts to size the child to a specific aspect ratio. And as you know, that there is a specific aspect ratio for YouTube videos, such as 4 by 3. So if you always force your widget to always have 4 by 3 dimension in whatever kind of scenario, whatever kind of platform, it will always be 4 by 3. So you had the container height 480 by 640. Let's make it uh, aspect ratio 16 by 9 or 4 by 3, which is going to make it perfectly fine for any kind of video. So let me just do that here. So you have this. So you can just change this to an aspect ratio, remove the height and container, and you can just give it an aspect ratio. So now you can change to different screen sizes, and it will always be the same dimension. So if you have iPhone 8, iPhone XS, iPhone XR, it is always going to be the size of your YouTube video. So that makes sure that whatever screen sizes you're moving into, can we have the slides again? Yes. Whatever slides we move into, whatever device sizes we move into will always be the same dimension. So that's perfect now. Now we have what are the another usage of aspect ratio could be logo images. You want some your logo definitely should be 2 by 2 or something, or the images should be some 40 by 60 or blah blah blah. It definitely should have a fixed aspect ratio. So you can take care of that with this widget. Another thing that probably you might have noticed is the row of widgets. So you have the row of widgets here, and it's definitely not properly visible. So you have in iPhone 8, you cannot even see the third button. In iPhone XR, you see like just half of the third button, which definitely is not responsive for smaller screens. It was working perfectly fine for the iPad, but does not work at all for iPhone devices, which is what you're actually developing for first. So here was the the code, which we simply had a row of 3 buttons, and which is fine. But here, when the button itself has some text which can be longer than the width, how can we make sure that we fit all the buttons in the width? There are a few ways of going about it. One is your fitted box. So you can scale and position its child within itself according to fit. So if you have a, let me find, we have the row here. Now if you just wrap this with fitted box, now it will all come to fit the width that your parent is providing, which is currently the entire width of the device with minus some padding. So the fitted box is going to fit the entire thing here properly. So now if you just change it to, it's perfectly fine in iPad. It was always fine in iPad. If you make it iPhone 5, it's still fitting the width here. But the problem is I'm unable to see anything here. Like, it's so tiny that definitely in terms of accessibility, it is very, very wrong, because the person has to really squint to see what is exactly happening and what is exactly written there. So maybe not the best approach for this widget. So what another widget that we have is called wrap, which can display the children in either horizontal or vertical runs. So if now you have the a row, you can replace the row with a wrap. So if you can just remove this fitted widget for now and make it wrap, and give it access dot horizontal. So currently, if you check it in iPhone XR, it will first try to fit in the horizontal row, and if it cannot fit in, then it will go to the next line. It will kind of wrap the widget into whatever space it's available with. So, and when you see it in iPhone 5, since there is no space available for any of the buttons, it's all coming in vertical runs. But if you have an even longer screen, which is like iPhone X plus Mac or iPad Air 2, it will first try to fit into the horizontal row. So if you see here, you have axis.horizontal. Now, if you see, this can be made into axis.vertical, and it always try to fill in the vertical runs. So in a way, if I make it vertical, even for a longer, bigger, larger screen, it will always try to fit the vertical run. So that's perfectly accessible for our application, and users are able to see things, which is great. So we can keep this on for now, and let's move it to the next issue that we have found. Uh, Now that we have done the things for the fitting and the wrapping and all the widgets that fold, are we doing things responsive enough for web? Because even now I see a huge YouTube video thing, a huge track card list widget that is taking my entire space. Now imagine if this were web, it would stretch the entire width. Sorry about the sounds here. But yeah, so, and the space that we have here, that could have been moved to here. Now, let's see how we can make it responsive for web. So we have something called Layout Builder. So Layout Builder builds a child widgets based on the parent's widget constraints. So basically, this is what is going to help you build your layout according to web or your phone. So first, let's see how we can make a responsive app bar. So here we have an app bar here, and then let's see if we to make a layout builder, we first give it a kind of a if else statement, where if constraints is more than 500, you do this. If constraints is less than this, you do that. So what we can do is that if when the constraints of or the maximum width is more than 500, we can remove the drawer layout and try to put the menu items uh, on the app bar itself. So home, agenda, speakers will be on the screen itself because we have so much space left. So simply we return the app bar if constraints of max width is more than 500. Center, we have center title as false. We automatically imply leading as false, meaning the drawer uh, icon will be gone currently. And the actions will be giving the menu buttons on the app bar. This is when it is more than 500 screen. Now, when it is less than 500, we might want to just have a simple app bar where there is a door icon and normal text. Then we have the responsive home page. Let's see how we can just. So we have layout builder where we want to return when the max width is more than 900, it will return a web layout. And when it's less than 900, it will return a phone layout. So what is the web layout currently? We have the list view, which has a row. As we can see from this, our list view is going to be a row of info section, YouTube video, and then the next part will be the track card section. So you have a row of info section, and you expanded the YouTube section, and then you have a track list section as a part of your list view. But the problem comes here. When you are creating this is what you are getting when you're trying to run this. So here you have the body section taking the text section taking the entire width, which is why it's saying that I don't have any space to give to the YouTube section. So I will take the entire space as available, and I don't really care about the YouTube section. So, which is definitely pretty selfish here. So what we can do is to fix it is that we can try to use an expanded or flexible widget. Now, widgets that controls how a child of a row, column, or flexes. So, what we can do is that flexible is basically here if you give it a flexible fit flex fit dot tight, which is another way of saying that I'm going to use expanded. So it's just when the flexible, when the fit is tight, it's basically an expanded widget. So you can replace it with an expanded widget, and your entire row will be divided between two sections. One is the info section and one is the YouTube section. So it's divided into 50-50% of your screen. So that way it is more responsive that whenever you are going to be increasing the size, it's going to be taking half of your info section and half of YouTube. Another way of doing this, if you do not want to use expanded, is limited box. It will limit its size only when it's unconstrained. So if you just simply run this without expanded, and it will throw an error that it has unbounded constraints. It basically the constraints are infinity, and it wants to know how much it can expand into. So if you use a limited box, you can just wrap your info section with limited box and give the max width as half of the media query width, and that's all. It will always take, if it's unconstrained, if the parent is has infinity as infinite width, it will always try to give the child a half of the width, which is the same as expanded here as well. So let me just a second. So now I'm going to be trying to play the responsive homepage again and see how it looks. So this is the exact homepage. Here you have your limited box into half, and info section divided into half, and the YouTube section here. Now, the another thing that we are going to be doing is that we will need to be having the constraints that layout builder is giving. So here, like you have constraints here that what is the constraint of your parent, you need to be providing it to your child widgets so that they can decide some layout according to it. Similar way here, like we have the blue indicator, we want to be knowing what is the constraint here. Instead of putting it again under a layout builder and checking the constraints, we can just create an inherited widget like this. We have an inherited widget which takes a box constraints called device size, and we can pass it to your responsive homepage here. So here you return a base page and give it a constraints device size, and simply say constraints.maxwidth is more than 500, return web layout or phone layout. Now, whoever is the child of this responsive homepage can clearly get the constraints the way they want to use it. So here I have used it for my track grid card. So you have the track card, which is basically the same card I'm using for the list view, but I am giving it some kind of constraints here. If max width is more than 900, you give the box shadow. If the constraints is more than 700, you give some loose constraints or you don't. And here, like for the blue indicator, if the max width is more than 700, you give the blue indicator. Otherwise, for smaller devices, you don't. And this all I'm getting from the inherited widget, base page dot device size dot max width, which is here. If you have plenty, you're going to have plenty of widgets as a child of your responsive homepage, and each of them might have a different behavior for each size differences. So you might want to use the inherited widget to pass it on the constraints to all of your child widgets. So here we have, now the question is the list section versus the grid section. So here, when we had a list of cards, which was fine, but now we are going to create a track grid section, which is for a web layout. When we try to give it a row, because if you see, the design is that it needs a row of track. Now, which when you are changing the width, it is reducing its width of the card. So how, when we are trying to create a row of, here we'll be creating a row of flexible flex one track card. So when we try to fit it within the width, it has using a fitted box. There is this huge accessibility problem that we cannot even see the widget, uh, absolutely the text, because it's completely fitting the width and reducing the size a lot. So what we can do is give it a flexible flex one, which will say that whatever happens, we are going to divide the width between four flex cards, which is these four track cards. And if you increase the width, it will increase the height of the width as well. So here, I can show you here in the Flutter responsive itself. So here you are increasing the width of your card, and when you're reducing it, it will reduce it according, and at all times it will always have flex as one and dividing its width between four parts. And once the layout builder says that it's less than 500, we will change the layout itself. So that's a wrap with all the widgets that we have created just for making this responsive design in Flutter. This is available in my code pen and you can check it out. It will also be available in GitHub soon once I finish a little bit of the parts. But there are plenty of more widgets that you will need for making your layout responsive. Like there is boxes, constraint boxes, overflow boxes, and definitely a good idea of widgets like fitted box and wrap makes sure that your entire app is responsive for web, phone, and hopefully even devices smaller than phone if Flutter supports that as well. So you can try and experiment with these widgets. There is an entire list of widgets that's available on the Flutter website under the layout section, and you can try and play around with it. And hopefully you will have a much more beautiful and responsive application. So that's all. Thank you.